Please be seated. Counsel, please approach. Stay ready. You all can sit.
Yes.
Defense ready.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the next stage of the trial will be the opening statements of counsel. This is where the lawyers will introduce you to their theories of the lawsuit.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning. In order to understand the deaths of Shane Christian and Chris Newsom, we got to go back to January 2007. We got to introduce you to a bunch of random people, talk to you about a bunch of random events, and about this location on Chipman Street. Going back to January 2017, this is going to be the first week of January 2017. So the 5th is going to be on Friday's on the 5th, Saturday is on the 6th, Sunday's the 7th, Monday's the 8th, and Tuesday's the 9th. So at Chipman Street, 2316 Chipman Street, it's going to be a house on Chipman Street. It's a very small house. It's around 800 square feet. The house is, if you enter the house through the sunroom, the front porch there's a sunroom right here. There are no doors in the house. There's a curtain that covers the sunroom to the living room. That's going to be the living room. Then you go into the front bedroom here. That's called the north bedroom. Then this is going to be the south bedroom. This is the kitchen, and then this is the back porch. It's a very small house. This house was rented by LaMarcus Davidson and Daphne Sutton. And they lived there in 2006. At some point in time, Mr. Davidson, he becomes violent towards Ms. Sutton, and Ms. Sutton is going to leave the house. Now, the furniture in the house is owned by Ms. Sutton. Mr. Davidson knows this lady by the name of Ethelyn Freeman. And Ethelyn Freeman, she was going through a divorce. She's moving from a house to an apartment. So since she's doing that, she's going to have to get rid of some furniture. So what you have here is you've got Daphne's going to move out. She's going to take her furniture. Mr. Davidson knows Ethelyn, so he's going to get her furniture. But she wants him to pay her for the furniture. It's her furniture. So she sells him some furniture, and she gives him some bedding, floral bedding. In December, LaMarcus Davidson's brother, Thomas Collins, comes down here. He brings his girlfriend, Vanessa Colvin, and he brings George Thomas, his friend, and George Thomas's girl, Stacey Lawson. So if you think about it, at this point in time, in an 800 square foot house, we've got, in the front bedroom, LaMarcus Davidson and Daphne are staying. This bedroom here, we've got LaTavis Collins, Vanessa Colvin, and then look at that blanket, there's a blanket up there. George Thomas and Stacey Lawson are staying there. There's another person, Natasha Hayes, who also comes down. So it's a whole bunch of people in this house. In the house, the only person that has a dog is Daphne Sutton. The only person that has a car is Daphne Sutton. Daphne Sutton also has a cell phone. Eventually, Natasha Hayes goes back to Kentucky. After the first, LaMarcus Davidson sticks a gun in Stacey Lawson's face. Stacey Lawson's had enough. She goes back to Kentucky. Nobody else wants to go back. And so what you have left would be George Thomas, Thomas Collins, Vanessa Colvin, LaMarcus Davidson, Daphne Sutton. The first week of January 2007, LaMarcus Davidson puts his hands on Daphne Sutton. Daphne said, I've had enough. She leaves. When Daphne leaves, of course, she takes with her her cell phone, so you have no phone there at the house. She's the only one who had a car. Her car is not working, so nobody at the house has a car. And she's the only one who's working, so nobody has a job, nobody's moving. But left there would be LaMarcus Davidson, LaTavis Coffins, Vanessa Colvin, and George Thomas. No car, no job, no cell phone. LaMarcus Davidson is friends with Mr. Eric Boyd. You will hear that LaMarcus Davidson and Eric Boyd, they played together on the basketball team. LaMarcus Davidson has known Mr. Boyd for a while. You will hear that Mr. Boyd, he has a cousin by the name of Adrian Mathis. His family was close. Adrian Mathis, she has a white car. And the interesting thing about this car is that there's a red stripe. It's a Chevy. Mr. Boyd asked Ms. Mathis if he can borrow her car the first weekend in January. Now, in the previous trials, Ms. Mathis has testified to that, 7 previous trials, that she loaned him the car. Either it was either that Friday or that Saturday. So, on Saturday afternoon, what you have is Mr. Boyd has this white car, LaMarcus Davidson, LaTavis Coffins, Vanessa Coleman, George Thomas. They have no car, they have no cell phone, they have no job. Saturday afternoon, as it relates to Chris and Shannon, what you have is the plan Saturday night is for Chris, Shannon, and their buddies to get together in Halls at their buddy Mr. Hampton's house. His parents are out of town, it's his birthday, they're going to have a big old party, and basically the kids are just, some of the kids are going to spend the night there. So before they go, though, Chris Newsom and his best friend, Josh Anderson, they go and play some golf about all Saturday afternoon. Chris finishes up, drops Josh off. Chris goes to his house, gets cleaned up, washed up, and he's 20-something, so he is rushing. His plan is to rush to go pick up Josh, drop him off at the party, pick up Shannon, take her, get her something to eat, and then they're going to go to the party. Mama sees him coming down the steps, like, hey, hold up, slow up. Don't you want to eat something? No, I've got to go pick up Shannon. So, at that point in time, he had not eaten. He's got on his ball cap, he's got on some sneakers, jeans, a belt, a shirt. And he leaves out, and he goes and picks up Josh. At 8:45, he goes to the bank and withdraws $100. He and Josh then go to Jamie Hampton's house in Halls. They probably get there around 9 o'clock. And I say that because Kara Sowers, who is Shannon's best friend, is there at the party, and she sees Chris drop off Josh. And what she knows is that Shannon is going to be upset. And that's because Shannon's Saturday started out, she had to work that day. But before she went to work, she was talking with her mom, Dina Christian, and explained to Dina that her plans would be to go to work, and then after work she was going to go to Kara's house. They were going to get together and then go to this party. But at the end of the night, she was going to spend the night with Kara. So that was her plan. I'm not coming home tonight, I'm spending the night with Kara. It's not a big deal. Her and Kara, best friends, she's always staying in Kara's apartment in Washington Ridge Apartments. So they lay out some clothes, pick out some clothes that she's going to wear after work. Shannon goes to work, gets off of work a little early. She calls and tells Kara that. Kara asks her to pick up some shampoo. She stops to get some shampoo at Walgreens before arriving at Washington Ridge Apartments. Washington Ridge Apartments is off of Washington. And so what we have here is coming here, Kara's apartment is around in here. Miss Freeman, her apartment is around in here. So Kara comes in, sees Shannon there. She and Shannon, they get together. They talk. Shannon is wearing a pair of pink high heel shoes, some blue jeans, Big Star blue jeans, a white camisole, and then over the camisole, it's like a striped sweater. Some pink earrings. Kara takes a shower, and she goes to leave at around 8 o'clock. And she says to Shannon, you know, do you want to come with me to the party? And Shannon's like, no, I'm just going to wait on Chris. And so Kara leaves the apartment around 8, leaving Shannon there with her 4Runner. She's got a 4Runner. It's in the parking lot. And Kara proceeds to go to the party. And so again, so the plan is, they're at the party, they're anticipating Chris to pick up Shannon, they get something to eat, and then they'll arrive at the party. So when Kara sees Chris at the party, at 9 dropping Josh off, she knows that Shannon's going to be upset, because she's been sitting there for an hour waiting for Chris. So Kara calls Shannon saying, hey, I just saw Chris, I promise you he's on his way. She's a little upset. Chris also calls Shannon at around 9:02, and they have a conversation. Because of the phone, and that's how we do it. That evening, Miss Freeman has been in communication with Mr. Davidson, and she is expecting Mr. Davidson to bring her money that evening. She don't know how she's going to get there, but she needs her money because her KDB bill is due. She does not see Mr. Davis that night. At the party, 10 o'clock comes and goes, and the kids are looking for Shannon and Chris. They're wondering why they're not at the party. So they start calling their cell phones, and nobody answers. And that's odd, because they would answer, or even if they didn't answer, they'd call right back. But neither one of them are answering. Probably around 11 o'clock, the guys at the party, including Josh, they decided to go to Washington Ridge Apartments to see if they're there at Washington Ridge Apartments just spending some alone time together, not wanting to talk to anybody. When they arrive in the parking lot, they see Chris's pickup truck, and they don't see Shannon's SUV. That's odd, because Chris, anytime he and Shannon are together, Chris would always drive the pickup truck. Always. Shannon would never drive him in her SUV, and he would never drive her SUV. That's just it. That's just habit routine. Now, if a bunch of guys and a bunch of girls were going out together, then what would happen? All the girls would roll up in the SUV, and all the guys would go in the truck. But Chris and Shannon, they're going out, he would always drive. So it's odd that his pickup truck is in the parking lot. Shannon's SUV is not there, and they're not answering the phone. But again, they're young folks. They're not thinking, something is amiss. And remember, the parents, like Shannon's parents, are under the impression after the party she's going to spend the night at Kara's. Chris's parents are under the impression that after the party he's just going to stay there at Mr. Henry's. So the parents, they don't know that the kids can't reach Shannon and Chris. They're in the parking lot. What the guys do, they notice the golf clubs are in the back of the pickup truck. It's beginning to rain. It's cold. So they take the golf clubs out of the pickup truck. They mess with the truck a little bit. Mess the mirrors, mess with the windshield wipers. And they go back to the party. And they report to the party, hey, it's a little odd. Chris's truck is there, but Shannon's SUV is not there. They continue to try to call them, and nobody answers. Around 12:30 a.m. Sunday, back at Chipman Street, there's a man by the name of Xavier Jenkins. He is employed with Waste Connections, and he's worked there for a period of time, and he's got a new position that he's training for. And if you'll notice, Waste Management, that's right next door to 2316 Chipman Street. So this new position that he's training for, he arrives at work at around 12:30. And when he does, he parks in the parking lot. And what catches his attention is at 2316 Chipman Street, he will describe that as being busy. And the reason why he thinks that it's busy is because he notices a light on at the house. It's 12:30 in the morning. He's been in before. He's really never noticed that before. In front of the house is parked this 4Runner, and the headlights are on. That's odd. He had never seen that before. It's just out of place. And behind that 4Runner is this white car, and the lights are off. And he sits there for a period of time waiting on the guy that's supposed to be there to train him at 12:30, and the guy hasn't shown up. He sits there for a little while, and then he decides, and he's going to have to explain it to you. Keep in mind, it's 2007, so he has his cell phone, and it's like an AT&T phone, and it's not a minute phone, but he didn't have any minutes on it. He could call other AT&T customers, but he couldn't call anybody else. So he couldn't call Leroy. So he sits there for a while, and he decides that he's just going to go up to the gas station and call Leroy on the payphone and use his names. Also at around 12:30, Shannon Christian makes a phone call to her dad, who's in bed. He has to get up and work at 7 o'clock. Dina's in bed as well. When the phone rings, she gets up, uses the bathroom, and talks to Gary about the phone call. And after talking to Gary about the phone call, it is her understanding that Shannon's plans have changed. That Shannon is at 12:30, is at Kara's apartment in Washington Ridge Apartments. And she and Kara are going to finish up watching a movie. And she's going to be home maybe around 3 or 4 o'clock. Since Dina's up, and she knows that Mr. Christian has to get up and go to work the next morning at 7 o'clock, she's just going to stay up until 3 or 4 whenever Shannon gets home, so that she can go downstairs, unlock the door, so that Shannon doesn't wake Mr. Christian up. So she's sitting up there waiting for the 4Runner to come down the street. Mr. Jenkins comes back from the gas station getting his M&Ms and Diet Pepsi, and he parks his car back in the parking lot here, and what he notices now is that the 4Runner pulls out. And it's odd because it pulls out and it slows up when it gets to him, and what he notices in the 4Runner is that it appears to him there are 4 black males in the 4Runner. And they're mean-mugging. And he will tell you that if they're looking at me as if I don't have a right to be here, I'm working, so I mean-mug them right back. I have a right to be here. But what else is odd to him is that after these 4 black, what appears to him to be 4 black males, mean-mug him around in here, the car travels this way, and it like circles back and goes this way. He can't tell where it goes, past here, but it's odd to him because he was saying if they were just going to go that way, then why wouldn't they just do a U-turn and go that way? So it's like they intentionally came to look at him. So that was odd. Eventually, Leroy shows up, and they go on their route. You will hear from Mr. Jerome Arnold, who also lives on Chipman Street. And Mr. Arnold, he is up at this time of night. And he is watching the Outer Limits television show. He will tell you that at 1:45, knows that time, he hears pop, pop, pop. He doesn't think anything about it. He's thinking it's just some kids shooting off fireworks. Around 3 o'clock, back at the party in Halls, some of the kids are still trying to reach Shannon and Chris. They can't reach them. Kara decides to leave the party and go back to her apartment and go to bed. When she gets to the apartment, there's really nothing amiss, except for Chris's truck is still in the parking lot. Shannon's SUV is not there. Shannon is not in the apartment. She has left the light on for the dog. There's nothing out of place in the apartment. She goes to bed. Around 7 o'clock, Mr. Jenkins, his shift is coming to an end, and so he and Leroy Jones, they pull back into the parking lot. They're getting ready to end their shift, and when they do, Mr. Jenkins notices the Forerunner. Again, and the Forerunner this time is parked in the parking lot facing the train tracks. And what he noticed about the Forerunner, again, the Forerunner just seemed out of place. It has some stickers on the back window. The Power T is the main one that he remembers. And so they pull up to the Forerunner. It's a big old dump truck, and so he thinks they're going to find some kids in there making out. And so they're going to try to scare him a little bit. So they pull up in this big old dump truck and shine their lights in there, but they don't see anybody. 7:45, you're going to hear that Mr. Roy Thurman, he works in a sandblasting area on the other side of the railroad tracks. And so he's there doing sandblasting, and what he notices at 7:45 a.m. is smoke rising up from around the train tracks. Now, by this time, by 12:15 p.m., what has happened is that Karen is up. She is still trying to reach Shannon. Can't reach her. The guys at the party, some of them are up. They still can't reach Chris. But remember, the parents, they don't know. The parents think the kids are just spending the night at their friend's house. Miss Freeman, she still has not been in contact with Mr. Davidson. She needs her money because she's got to pay her AV bill. She goes over to Chittenden Street to look for Mr. Davidson, and she happens to see George Thomas walking down the street. She don't like George Thomas, and so she just turns around and she leaves to go back to Washington's apartment. And in doing so, she is driving down Cherry Street, and traffic is at a standstill because the train is stopped on Cherry Street. The engineer on the train is a man by the name of J.D. Ford. Mr. Ford has worked for the railroad company for a number of years. And as the train is traveling, like from the Cherry Street area down this way, he notices something. And at first he's thinking maybe it's a log. And as they get closer, he realizes that it's a mill. He's been burned. And so the train is stopped. He gets off the train. And he goes and he inspects it and sees that it is a nail that has been burned. He collects himself and reports it. And so then the authorities come out and they collect the body. Now, you can't make an ID at the time because the head is wrapped in some type of material like a sweatshirt. And so what they do is that they put him in a body bag. Because remember, this is Sunday. And so they put him in a body bag and then they take him to the forensic center so that we can do an autopsy on Monday. So remember, at this point in time, parents don't know the kids were missing. The kids, the buddies, they're young. They're not thinking anything bad is happening, right? I mean, they're just thinking these two kids are out just spending time together. Sunday afternoon, Adrian Mathis gets a phone call from Mr. Boyd and reports to her that the white Cavalier is broke down at his mom's apartment in Ridgewood. Ridgewood is off of Western Avenue. And you couldn't get the call. It's not working anymore. It's Sunday. The bus is on. I mean, that's the only way Adrian has to get over to Ridgewood. And so she says, okay. Shannon was supposed to open the store. She worked for the shoe show. It's owned by the shoe department at West Town Hall. And she was supposed to open the store on Sunday. She didn't. Now, in the meantime, Dina is calling Shannon because she's been expecting her since 3 or 4 o'clock, and she's not there. And so she's calling her like, where are you at? You could have at least called to tell me that you wasn't coming home. Call's not being answered. And what people will tell you is that when they would call the phones for Shannon and Chris, sometimes it would ring, sometimes it would go straight to voicemail. And so Dina Christian is trying to reach her daughter. She can until around 3 o'clock. The manager calls and he says, hey, Shannon, okay? You're supposed to open. And that's when she answers. So, as I said, Kara and Shannon are best friends in the whole lot. Best friends. And Kara, unfortunately, had gotten a new phone. And when she got a new phone, she didn't give Dina the new number. So, Dina is trying to reach Shannon, can't reach Shannon. And so Dina is also trying to reach Kara, can't reach Kara. And so you can imagine. And then eventually she is finally able to reach Kara, and Kara tells her that they have not been able to reach Shannon and Chris. Dina contacts Chris's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Newsom. A missing persons report was filed. Luckily, the cell phone that Shannon has is in Dina's name. And so they were able to contact U.S. Cellular to find out where the phone last came. Because she made that 12:30 phone call, leading everyone to believe that she was at Washington Apartments with Kara, watching a movie and went from home. And so U.S. Cellular says that phone call at 12:33, that pinged off the Cherry Street tower. And you will hear from the U.S. Cellular guy that if it pings off the Cherry Street tower, she's not at Washington Apartments. It's just too many towers, it's too far. The tower that the Washington Apartments is east. So what they do is that this is now Sunday evening. What everyone does, all their friends, they load up and they call a buddy by the name of Jack Barnes. Mr. Christian knows him, he's a retired detective. And they meet off of Cherry Street and explain to Jack Barnes what they're doing, what they're looking for. And so what Mr. Barnes says, he suggests to them that y'all load up and y'all just do a grid search. So basically there are 4 cars there, and just basically drive down every street, see if you see anybody. See anybody, anything. That's what they did. Karen is in the car with Mr. Christian, Chase Christian's there, Josh Anderson's there, and some other things. And they're driving down the streets looking. At around 1:45 a.m. at Glider and Chipman. And so this is Chipman here. This is Glider here. And so right around here, Chase Christian, Shannon's brother, sees Forerunner. Now, the thing about the Forerunner is that Shannon had stickers on the back windows. Those stickers had been removed. There's one sticker that's left. And you probably can't tell it there. It's a Texas Longhorn. And if you were sitting in the car, you probably wouldn't see this sticker because it's right behind the rear view mirror. Chase calls Mr. Christian, tells him that the car has been found, They go to the car, and they notice that the car is different. You can tell somebody has wiped it down. They look in the car, and they see mud in the car. That's wrong about this car. Daddy said, you got to keep the car clean. Shannon would always keep her car clean. Not only is there mud in the car, but the seats are pushed all the way back, and they're leaned back. Now, Shannon is a tall lady, but the seats, she never had one seats back there. He called Dean Christian. She was at home in case Shannon called. She brings the spare key, and they get in the car, and in looking in the car, not only do you see the mud, you see the seats pushed all the way back. Shannon had a bunch of clothes. She worked, she's a young lady. A bunch of clothes that she was going to take to Goodwill or Platinum Exchange. Bags of clothes. All those bags of clothes are gone. The car's cleaned out. Bags of clothes are gone. Her golf shoes are gone. Her wallabies are gone. Above the visor, she had a whole bunch of pictures that her and her buddies had taken at the birthday party. They're gone. Mom and Dad got an iPod for Christmas. It's gone. What is left in the car is a torn charging cord, cellular charging cord. There's a jacket, and underneath that jacket, there's a bank envelope. The car is towed, and they go and knock on the door to the neighbor that lives there across the street on Glider. At this house, her name is Sandra Colleen Bible. She goes by Colleen. And they ask her, when's the last time you looked outside? You see this truck here before? She says, I was out smoking at around midnight, and the truck wasn't there. So the truck is taken to the police department. So now this is Monday around 1:45, right? And so what we have is we've got the truck at the impound, the body that's recovered from the train tracks is at the ME's office waiting for an autopsy. Still can't find Shannon, can't find Chris. And the next morning, at the autopsy, Chris is identified as being the body on the train tracks. The autopsy revealed that Mr. Newsom was in his bare feet, had mud on the bottom of his feet. His Nikes, his shoes have been removed, his socks have been removed from his bare feet. His legs have been bound with a piece of floral fabric and his belt. His socks had been stuffed in his mouth. There was a gag that was tied, a gag in his mouth. His arms had been tied behind him, his hands. There was a bandana over his eyes. There's a sweatshirt wrapped around his head. Mr. Newsom had been shot in the shoulder, in the lower back, and was shot in his head. Before that, he had been raped angrily. After being shot, he had been covered with some type of fabric. An accelerant had been poured on the fabric, and he had been set on fire. So at this point in time, Monday morning, the identification is made. Also Monday morning, Adrian Mathis gets on the bus, goes to Ridgebrook, sees her white car parked in front of Mr. Boyd's mom's apartment in Ridgebrook. And she confirms that she can't move the car, she's not driving, something's wrong with her. But she's looking in the car because she wants to get a CD. And again, she has testified in the last 7 trials that she looked in the car and looking for the CD, what she discovers is a bag of itty-bitty bullets. She gets that bag of itty-bitty bullets, and she just throws them away because she says, well, it's mine, but she leaves the car there. And so this is Monday. Word makes it around the kids that Chris has been killed. And so definitely want to intensify the search for Shannon. KPD is able to develop a print from that envelope that's in the car. Danny Crenshaw with the Knoxville Police Department is the one who identified that print. We did not hear from Danny Crenshaw. He passed from cancer a number of years ago. That print was verified as belonging to LaMarcus Davidson. And the records reveal that LaMarcus Davidson lives at 2316 Chipman Street. And so we got a search warrant to look in the house for Shannon Christian in hope that she's still alive. And so in order to execute a search warrant, you've got to call the SWAT team because they've got to go through and make the house safe before the officers can come in and search the house. And so the SWAT team comes in and they, again, we're going through they go through the sunroom, they go through the living room, clear, go through the bedroom, clear, there's a little closet there, clear it, go through the bathroom, clear it, this back bedroom cleared, there's a little closet here cleared, go through the kitchen cleared, and the back porch cleared. So there's nobody there for the house. But what the officer notices is that there's a trash can right in here, and that trash can is oddly shaped. And so the officers, we have one officer standing there with a gun because we don't know who's in the trash can. Mr. Davis is not there, don't find Mr. Christian. And with the gun trained on the trash can, we pull up the lid, and officers see Ms. Christian in the trash can. They check to see if she's alive. There's no signs of life. There's a call made to the ME's office. The ME comes and takes possession of the body. The trash can. They don't disturb the body. They don't take the body out of the trash can. The ME's office takes the trash can and the body and everything that's in the trash can. The ME's office for an autopsy. The autopsy revealed that Ms. Christian had injuries from the top of her head to her back to her arm. Her frenulum was torn. She had on that camisole, and she had on that striped sweater, shirt. She was nude from the waist down, no underwear, no pants, no shoes. She was tied in a manner that her leg hog-tied is the best way I can describe her. Her legs were pulled up so that her vaginal and anus are exposed. She had been raped vaginally and anally, but not just raped vaginally and anally. She suffered bruising injuries, vaginal and anal region, consisting of blunt force trauma. After being hog-tied, she was put into not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 trash bags. And then there was a white trash bag tied around her face. She was still alive. And her eyes were open when she died. She was tied with that floral fabric that got from Lynn Green. The floral fabric that was used in Chris's body case. At the house, the police, they are executing the search warrant, and they find all that stuff from Shannon's SUV throughout the house. You got her iPod found in the north bedroom, in Mr. Davis's bedroom. You got her pink shoes found in this closet. That back porch You've got these trash bags, and all that stuff from her car is in those trash bags. Pictures, clothes, Chris's baseball caps, car keys belonging to Chris and belonging to Shannon. Also in the house, what officers find are a number of 6 shell casings belonging to a .22 handgun. So you got 6 shell casings that are found on the sun porch and shell casings found in the kitchen. You've also got a gas can found on the sun porch, a gas can found in the kitchen. So at this point in time, still looking for Marcus Davidson. Officer Gray was determined that the other thing on the list is Daphne Sutton. So, trying to find Daphne Sutton. Daphne Sutton is located, and bring her in for an interview. And so what she says is that she left the house on Friday, but she tells them that she went back on Sunday to get some clothes from Mr. Davidson. She basically calls, I got some clothes. When she arrives there, she goes in the house, and in the house she sees George Thomas, Thomas Cobbins, and so what Daphne says is that she tried to go into the bathroom, but the door was closed. It's just an accordion door. And Mr. Davidson wouldn't let her go into the bathroom, and she heard a noise in the bathroom. So she assumed that Vanessa Coleman was in the bathroom. And so Marcus Davidson gives her some clothes, of course, belonging to Shannon, and tells her to leave. So at this point in time, Daphne Sutton doesn't know that Shannon Christian is in the house, and she doesn't know that those clothes belong to Shannon. She just knows that Davidson is saying, "Hey, I'm here, I've got a gift for you." She takes those clothes, goes back. She's been staying at her friend's house. You're going to hear Cassie Suttles and Brandon Presley. They are a couple, and she's been staying with them. She looks through the bag of clothes and realizes the clothes are used, and so she doesn't want them. But because of who she saw in the house, the police are now looking for those people. So they're looking for Marcus Davidson because he owns the house, and his print's on that envelope. But they're also looking for Thomas Cobbins, George Thomas, and Vanessa Clemens because they were in the house on Sunday. Daphne also tells the police, now let's go back for a second. Remember Monday at 1:45 a.m. is when we find the car on Blythe. And so what Daphne says to the police is that, hey, I picked up Mr. Davidson. He called me. I picked him up in the early morning hours of Monday and brought him back here to Brandon Presley's house, and we spent the night here. Spent Monday night until Tuesday, waking up Tuesday morning or Tuesday afternoon at 2 o'clock. Whenever it had been broadcast on the news that a body had been found at 2360 Church Street. So her mom had called Daphne to tell her about that. Daphne tells the people she's standing with, and they decide that Davidson's going to get out of the house. And so Davidson tells Daphne that he needs to go to Bridgebrook. And so Daphne and Brandy and Cassie take Davidson to Bridgebrook. And so the police ask Daphne, do you know anybody in Bridgebrook? Who does he know in Bridgebrook? And so the name that Daphne gives is E. And the officer's brother was determined that that's very cool. And Daphne confirms it. I mean, Daphne knows E and knows about him playing basketball. So now the police are looking for Lamarcus Davidson. They're looking for Eric Boyd because they believe Eric Boyd can lead them to Lamarcus Davidson. And they're looking for the folks who are from Kentucky. Now the folks who are from Kentucky, they're able to make it back up to Kentucky. And they're staying at Natasha Hayes' house. You can imagine how many different law enforcement agencies are involved in this case. And so the different law enforcement agencies are able to track Thomas Cobbins, George Thomas, Vanessa Coleman up to Kentucky. They go up there and they get them. And they take them to the Marion Police Department. And they interview Vanessa Coleman first. And then the next one they interview for Thomas Collins. And the third one they interview is George Thomas. On Thursday, January 11, 2007, George Thomas identifies the three people responsible for the crime. Mr. Boyd, Mr. Davidson, and Mr. Collins. Now, in his interview, he acknowledges that he knew that that people had been talking about doing a car check. He should do that. What he tells the police is, while he's sitting there in the house, after the three of them had left, Marcus Davidson walks Shannon Christian in with his sweatshirt over her head, and Mr. Boyd walks Chris Newsom in the house, blind. And Mr. Collins comes riding up in Mr. Boyd's white car. So, before I keep on with this timeline, understand, even though we had that information, we couldn't use that information against Mr. Boyd because Mr. Thomas was going to charge. And so we can't use an out-of-court statement that someone has given us in order to prosecute somebody. We've got to have somebody on the witness stand saying what they told us. So we had that information. It takes a while for that information to make it to the authorities in Knox County. In the meantime, in Knox County, Marcus Davidson and George Thomas, Marcus Davidson and Eric Boyd, they had been in Ridgebrook. They spent the night at a lady's apartment by the name of Danielle Lightfoot. Whenever she saw the stuff on the news, she said, y'all can get out of here. And so what happens is, Mr. Boyd is aware of this house being vacant, and he tells Mr. Davidson about it and allows him to hide out, helps him to hide out in this house. So law enforcement, they are able to locate Mr. Boyd, and Mr. Boyd, they take him into custody, and Mr. Boyd tells them where Mr. Davidson is. Law enforcement, they release Mr. Boyd because they don't know about what all is said up there in Kentucky. Mr. Boyd is released. I apologize, whenever we arrest Mr. Davidson, we find Chris's shoes. Mr. Davidson is wearing Chris's shoes, and the shoes are too small for Mr. Davidson. So, when law enforcement, it's from Kentucky, calls down here and talks to the people down here in Knox County, the people in Knox County, law enforcement in Knox County, realize that Mr. Boyd has something wrong. And so they need to go and take Mr. Boyd into custody. Based upon his statement, that's why he is charged with accessory after the fact. Heard about that in Lord Dyer. The federal authorities charged him with accessory after the fact, because at that point in time, since we charged everybody that was involved, we couldn't use anybody's statements against another person. And so he's taken into custody. The officers go and they confiscate this car. They search the car. In the car, what they discovered is a gas can in the trunk. And now, let me tell you this, at least this is what Adrian Mathis told us in the previous set of trials, is that her car ran out of gas the last week of December, and the boyfriend had to bring her a gas can with some gas in it. And so she used that, and she just put the gas can in the trunk. So I'm not trying to tell you that somebody went out specially got a gas can for this case. I'm just saying that what she has told us is that the gas can was already in the trunk. But also what they found, it's not a good picture, but underneath the front passenger seat, there's a holster. And so that holster was sent to TBI, and DNA consistent with Mr. Boyd is found on the holster. Additionally, TBI examined the rape kit from Shannon Christian, DNA from both Lamarcus Davidson and Thomas Collins was found in her rape kit. We did the rape kit for Mr. Newsom, and we're not able to, they'll have to explain to you, only his DNA was discovered in his rape kit. So, the question is, what has changed in the last 4 years? As we talked about before, what has changed in the last 4 years is that Mr. Thomas has now agreed. Mr. Thomas spoke about his statement. He said he knew that a carjacking was going to happen. He watched them bring the people in the house, watched Chris leave the house. Then he acknowledged the riding in the forerunner. That would be his benefit. Based upon his statement, he has been convicted at 2 different trials. The first trial, he got life without parole. The second trial, he got life plus 25. And there he is, came back on post-conviction. And there was an agreement worked out. There was an offer extended. He accepted in exchange for him taking the witness stand, swearing to tell the truth, and telling you what happened. 2316 sentence. He agreed to 50 years to 85% penitentiary. At the conclusion of all this proof, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to stand back before you and ask that you find Mr. Boyd guilty of all the crimes that General Morton read to you yesterday.